Welcome back to my garage. You saw the previous video. We're back at it with the supercharged rotary exhaust valve, probably reed valves in the transfers concept, brute force concept engine. First up, thank you to everybody who has been donating and my new patrons, and I really appreciate you supporting me, and also you guys watching and commenting, and thank you again. I said I was gonna keep on thanking you, and thank you. Anyways, we have two variations of the same concept here. It's this first one, which was the original first try, and it has two big transfer channels with reed valves in them, and they're almost as high as the twin exhaust ports here into this single duct here. And this was run with a rotary disc valve for exhaust port control. The idea behind the transfers in the reed ducts and the super high transfer ports: continue filling the cylinder as long as there's higher pressure in the intake system versus the cylinder. So for this to be worthwhile, there has to be, like after normal transfer closing time, there has to be higher pressure in the crankcase, and that depends on the pressure from the supercharger and on the mass flow out of the exhaust and through the transfer channel. This version, this was Rev 2. I think it even says that, brute force Rev 2. This has no transfers in the transfer. No, it has transfers, no reed valves in the transfer ducts, but we've changed it up for a fully symmetrical design. So there's pretty much the same transfer area, maybe a little bit more, but now symmetrical. So two ports on each side, and the same thing goes for the exhaust port. There's like blowdown only now, so not as high exhaust port over the transfers, but pretty much the same area, but almost twice the blowdown area, might even be more. For this to be better than this, then there has to be enough area and flow before those relatively lower transfers close to purge the cylinder fully and fill it up and pressurize it to higher pressure, or to equalize the pressure in the case and the cylinder before those not so high transfers close. So if that's happening with this, then it should be better than this, because there was no reed valves and more blowdown area and stuff. And also, I think there should be much less friction in this, because this has two rotary drum valves versus the disc valve. And when this is closed, there's pretty much no more friction than when it's open. And there's no large surface area like with this, that's always creating friction. Probably not sealing as well, but it doesn't need to seal completely. It just needs to create a really restrictive path for gas flow. It's pretty much the mass flow that is our concern here, because another thing which I haven't talked about yet, with a Rotrex blower, this will push much more air than what we need. And the problem with that is that it's like the testing we've done earlier with this, we've always been on the wrong side of the surge line. You can't see this probably, but there's a line here, and so that's pressure. X-axis is pressure, and airflow is the y-axis. At about 200,000 RPM, we're talking a pressure ratio of like not a ratio, but 1.4 bars of overpressure, and that's at the mass flow of about 120 grams of air per second. That's like the maximum pressure for this, 1.4 bars. Like the first idea is just to have a valve that dumps out the excessive air, which is really wasteful. another idea which will create lots of heat, which could be a problem, but maybe not with the methanol and the nitromethane and some intercooling. Another idea is to pipe, like you have that valve that's supposed to dump the air out to keep it out of surge. If we have that dumping back to a plenum before the supercharger and have the intake of that plenum have a reed valve, so that as long as there's higher pressure being dumped out versus atmospheric, it'll build pressure before it's like a single compressor, compound compressor setup, where it's compounding itself. This will create lots of heat, I know, but might work. Maybe some water injection or something, something to make this work. But in that, so maybe we can turn that disadvantage of having a too large compressor for the engine into an advantage by creating much higher pressure. And that means if we have enough flow with this setup, or this for that matter, but if there's enough flow and we can build really, like say 3 bars of pressure, then we can probably see some really high power numbers. But I have to do some thinking here and just make sure there's enough. If there's not enough flow through these ports, we have to figure out a way to make them flow more, or maybe a different design. But I think might be like a combination of both here might be necessary. Now's the time for some thinking. After about 10 seconds of thinking, maybe we can set this up in a way so that we can measure the airflow like fairly directly with a mass airflow meter, and we can spin this with something else, like just spin this separately, like not an engine yet, and measure how high the mass flow is at various positions. Like say we divide the port by 10, use a piston, and then we can get a rough estimate of how much air we can push through the ports here per second at various pressures. And we can test, then we can also test the compounding and do some temperature measurements and stuff, and test the compounding idea. As is tradition, we're back to the garage being a huge unnavigatable mess again. But do you know which other place is also a huge unnavigatable mess? The internet. I want to thank NordVPN for continuing to sponsor my videos. I really appreciate it, and it really helps. The support really helps. So NordVPN, as you know, creates an encrypted tunnel for your data to travel in, so no one can spy on it and steal that data, which is important. It's super easy and super fast. Actually, just one click. If you don't have a preference for any special countries. And why you would have preferences for special countries is because you can take advantage of cheaper plane tickets, games or videos or shows or whatever that's not available where you're at, by pretending to be from somewhere else. Now I'm in India and I can pretend to be a scam call center. Perfect. That's my favorite feature. There's more important stuff though, and threat protection is definitely one of them. By turning on threat protection, you can rest assured you're being protected during every click while browsing the internet. Checks your download files for malware, blocks you from clicking on links leading to malicious websites, blocks ads and annoying pop-ups, and stops many types of web trackers from collecting data on your what you're doing on the internet. And you don't even have to have an active VPN connection for it to work. You can have it like, you don't need to use the VPN to use threat protection. To take advantage of all of this and more, head to nordvpn.com/twostrokestuffing for a great deal. It's risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Thank you, NordVPN. I think that was Thursday, and I spent Friday researching flow benches, do-it-yourself flow benches. And whilst doing that, I realized I can probably just use something like this, or actually use this. It's a mass airflow sensor, MAF sensor, from a Volvo. This one's from a Volvo, and that should give me the mass flow directly. So no need for any, like, you've seen flow benches. I think this should like do what I want. We're gonna test this with this, a leaf blower. I think I found the correct numbers for this online. There's some uncertainty though, so we're gonna test it and see how well it corresponds with the airflow stated for this, which probably is overstated a lot. It says 10.7 cubic meters of air per minute maximum from this. Let's say 10, then that's 735 cubic meters of air per hour. I'll put the numbers of the sensor and the housing on screen now, and maybe you can help me find the confirmed numbers. But the best I could find was some really old info from GeoCities. This sensor is not meant to flow more than 450 kilos per hour, which means it's this is out of the range. We'll see how, because I'm pretty sure this is not flowing as much as it says it is. Hooked up to a bench power supply, 12 volts. Then there's a 5 volt feed from an Arduino, and the Arduino is also plotting the voltage coming out of this. 5 volt reference from this might not be as accurate as we want it to be, but we should get us in the ballpark. And all I need now is to find some ballpark numbers for this. So let's call that 3.62, slightly over 200 kilograms per hour. Well, we're not getting anywhere really without the proper, I don't think it's the proper numbers, because this can't flow. Like, it can, but probably this doesn't flow just a quarter of what it's supposed to flow. I think what I'm going to do is just, I don't think, we'll try using this, but I don't think it'll provide enough pressure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hook an air source to this, probably the Rotary supercharger itself, with this in line, and then a pressure sensor, and then we can see how much flow we'll have at various pressures. And what I need to find out is if there's sufficient flow through here at not too much pressure. Like, well, we won't be able to test really high pressures without doing the compound thing, but I need this to flow, like, say, with 1 bar of pressure, so twice atmosphere. We really need this to flow, like, say, 100 cc per revolution. I don't think this will, like, it moves a lot of air, at least on paper, but a little bit of restriction and it just stalls. I printed this adapter piece, which will go here. This little thing where is a pressure takeoff for my pressure sensor. Now this pressure sensor is reading a constant 5 volts. So maybe I've destroyed it earlier, but it could also be that I destroyed it while I flipped the plus and minus. Well, actually, I fed the 5 volts into both the ground and the voltage VIN. I'll call that 3.07 average. And now let's see the difference. Now with the engine connected. 2.5. But these numbers mean nothing without the pressure. So my guess is we won't see a difference at all. Because I don't think this is capable of building any meaningful pressure. Maybe, as there's such a large restriction here, we'll see. There's an almost imperceptible movement of the needle. So there's a tiny bit of pressure. But this is just pointless. Well, this is pointless. This is not pointless. Just a quick little thing. I've received lots of messages and emails and stuff on various platforms, Instagram and on here, and also like email. And I'm really bad at replying to stuff. And it's not always that I don't have the time or there's too much, even though sometimes there is, like I'm being flooded and it's just that I won't be able to see everything or like. But the main problem is how I'm postponing replying or even looking at messages and emails, and like for some strange reason, I don't think it's like a social thing. I really love meeting new people and hanging around people and talking to them. But at the same time, I'm also this. I have this weird thing where, say, an example from a few days ago. I was going to buy some stuff for my girlfriend, and so I went into the store. And well, first of all, I didn't go. This was at the mall, so I had just one thing to do. And that was buying some stuff from that store. I passed the store and I did bought some other stuff, like a soda or something first, just to buy myself some time. And then I went into the store and everything is fine. And I was looking around in that store, and then the woman working there approached me and started asking if I needed help and stuff. And in that moment, there's like 5 seconds and sweat is literally pouring down my back. Like I have such a and it doesn't, like, I don't feel the stress, but my body has such a stress reaction to situations like that. Same thing with meeting people at the grocery store, my old friends, or just like, and having to do a conversation like that. And it's really weird because it's like, I don't feel like it's hindering me. It's just, I know this is not the normal reaction to meeting people. But then, as I said, at the other end, I really like meeting new people, and I really like talking to people. And so it's just this weird, like, it's a dissonance between like my reaction to what I like and how I'm reacting. And I think that has something to do with like this weird resistance to replying to stuff and being like social. Such a complicated, weird human being, aren't we all? Well, I am, at least. About 1700 RPM, which is far too low for, it's good for running, but it's far too low for making any airflow and pressure. This is far too slow, but now we have the setup ready, and we just need to replace this, or just this, with something much faster and powerful enough. I think a good solution is one of those Honda clone 4-stroke engines. They're like 212cc or whatever, 6.5 horsepower advertised stuff. And there's one really close by, so I've sent a message to the guy selling it, and hopefully he'll answer soon. Bringing a 4-stroke into the garage is icky, I know, but we can feed it really bad gas and mistreat it badly, mistreat it as a slave to lighten our conscience. That's the route we're going now. And that can be used to, it can double as a slave for testing the engine dyno, the brake disc dyno, and also the water brake dyno when that arrives. So 4-stroke engine for flow testing and dyno testing it is. See you next time.